She curved it. Oh, goosebumps. Wow. Yo, they're going to dance together. But nevertheless, Haitra said, I chose to believe Frieren. I chose, here's a key. He chose, by choice, he chose to believe Frieren's words, even without communication nor mutual understanding. Why? The proof of evidence was there. Frieren promised to defeat the Demon King, and she did. Hello friends, my name is Benoit Kim, a psychotherapist and educator. Do you guys like having an introduction like my previous episodes in the beginning? Or like, nah, Benoit, go straight to the video? Let me know your thoughts seriously though, so I can continue to experiment with the best format to create the most immersive and enjoyable experience for everyone. This video is sponsored by Assassin Nation Zero, our new sponsor tier. Shout out to you, Assassin Nation. And of course, shout out to the best patron family to our growing support. I absolutely loved episode 14 from last week. So much subtlety and masterful writing and callback compacted in that episode. So let's see what episode 15 has in store for us today. Let's tune in. 29 years after Himmo's passing.
私がフリーレン様と旅に出てからですと4年ほどになります。
It's been 4 years.
そうか。
Quick pause. Does that scene reminiscent of any scenes in the past? Reminds me of the beginning scene in episode 1. Except this time, Frieren was traveling with the party rather than just herself or with the previous party reading that mage book. Full circle moments. She shed of her old identity with her old heroes party that's no more, but rather she went through a cycle of rebirth by being with her new self, her new emotional development, her increased emotional capacity, emotional expression, along with her new identity of a new emerging heroes party. And a lot of viewers have commented that Fern has this propensity to be overly jealous and possessive of Frieren. That could be the case because of Fern's traumatic upbringing, her attachment issues because of her background as an orphan, and so on. At the same time, in this scene, where Zine, yes, I know it's Zine with a Z, thank you to whoever commented that in the previous video. Zine's question was, how long have you guys been traveling together? Why did he ask that question? Because of the visible and palpable comfortability and ease the party had when they're traversing as part of their journey for the adventure journey. He asked that question, and what did we see? We saw that Fern was dozing off. Finally, because Frieren is always the one that's sleeping, and Fern is usually the parentified person taking care of Frieren. But in this case, it flipped. Frieren was lending a shoulder to Fern where she was sleeping, and of course, Frieren finally showcased that at the end of the day, regardless of Fern's over-jealous tendency, over-protective tendencies or not, of course, that's a theory. We don't actually know the case because we're not the writers. We're seeing the full mentor and mentee surrogate parent and child dynamic in this scene, which is the reason why Zine asked that question. What? MILFs?
前衛はいるし。に引っかかるので。うひょー。
I missed Fern's callback or clapbacks at Frieren.
があるんだよ。
違う。足りないのはもっと重要なものだ。年上のお姉さん。
I knew it. MILFs. What did I say? Flamme?
かったね。
次の村が見えてきたぜ。
I'm recording this episode after finishing Violet Evergarden episode 11, so I'm very excited for some laughters and non-tissue wiping moments. But of course, that wasn't just a comical setup for Zain. It also talks about Zain's increased comfortability and him easing into his role and him as a crucial member of this party. Because remember what everyone said earlier. Frieren has been traveling with Frieren for 4 years. Stark said a year. And we don't know exactly how long Zain has joined the party since the previous episodes. But still, in that comical exchange, because remember, every frame, every writing in this show serves a purpose. Zain is depicting his comfortability and his increased ease as part of this new team dynamic, this new adventurers group, even with that comical exchange. Or am I overthinking? Oh, everyone's falling asleep or unconscious. It's a curse. They're under the spell of a curse or of some sort. But it only impacts humans and not animals.
フリーレン様、怒りますよ。冗談だよ。
呪いだな。
Called
やっ
it.
ぱりか。面倒だね。
But it only impacts humans.
呪いって何なんだ？
魔物や魔族が使う魔法の石にしたりするものがあってね。その中でも人類が未だに解明できていない魔法。人類の魔法技術じゃ原理も解除方法もわからない。
じゃあこの村はもう手遅れなのか？
あくまで人類の魔法ではの話だ。僧侶が使う女神様の魔法なら話は別だ。
Zain.
呪いへの対処は昔から僧侶のなりわいだから。どうザイン、なんとかなりそう。
せかすな。今呪いの種類と発信源を調べている。
So far I've acclimated to the setup and the storyline or storytelling arc of Frieren. Almost every episode starts with the setup and or foreshadowing. So I think in this case it's probably both. I foresee that this very inaction, seemingly slow but deliberate scene of every villager's passed out or unconscious or asleep due to this unknown curse, whereas the animals are unimpacted. I think that this is my prediction. I could be wrong, of course. My prediction is that it's a foreshadowing for an action scene down the line. As we all know that most fights in the show last about 5 seconds, except for Stark's battle where he single-handedly took down Solar Dragon, which lasted precisely 30 seconds. With the masterful writing setup of Frieren, I'm guessing that that's a setup of inaction, seemingly lack of intensity, this deliberate slowness to set up for an action scene down the line. And we are immediately seeing another foreshadowing in this episode, Zain. Zain is this seemingly normal person. As many viewers pointed out in the previous episode, he's a normal person. He is, I guess, corrupted or very normal. He gambles. He drinks. He does a lot of these air quote normal traits that a regular person does. Yet he's this incredible priest with incredible capacity that even Heiter recognized in the past. So we haven't really seen a lot of actions or him stepping into the role of a healer, him stepping into the role of this new crucial member of this new team dynamic yet. So I have a feeling that this episode is probably centered around Zain and his new role and how pivotal he really is and instrumental he is for this new party. Maybe not even just as a healer, but maybe he is forced to take a leadership or even more, I guess, important role in this episode. But that's my foreshadowing of that passed out scene. And another thing, this might be a far stretch, but bear with me. I wonder what Frieren was thinking about when she saw every villager's passed out in that scene. Because remember, time perception is this timeless, pun intended, theme throughout the series because she is seemingly immortal and everyone else is mortal. So I wonder if she was even thinking about the resemblance and the parallels between these villagers passed out into their slumber of sleep versus seeing and witnessed countless patrons and countless members and people in the past throughout her long thousands of years lifespan who fell into eternal slumber, which is death. So I wonder if there's a parallel there as well in Frieren's internal reality and in her mind. But we shall see.
女神様の魔法って他の魔法とどう違うんだ？
女神様の魔法は聖典に記されていて、天の所持者しか使えない。そのほとんどは魔族の魔法。
God-given talents or goddess-given talents?
は呪いを聞きにくくする効果もあってね。
Quick pause. I'm pretty sure my prediction is accurate. I think this is an episode centered around Zain, his role, and his capacity as a healer or priest. And one thing I learned is whatever spontaneous questions I have is usually answered within 5 seconds. That's why I held back my question about what is the mechanism behind the goddess magic or humanity magic, and of course, the anime answered right away. But can someone comment and help break down the magic systems in this show? I know there's like the humanity magic, there's like which includes also elves, I believe. There's also the goddess magic, I guess what clergy or priests use. And there's of course the demon magic, and the magic that monsters use, like flying, that was eventually replicated and utilized by humans. So I would love for someone to share some insights and help break down the magic systems, the different types of magic system in this show for my background understanding. That would be very helpful. But another subtle detail that it glossed over. Zain, who is this powerful priest based on Heiter's recognition, and in the previous episode where he was able to cure Stark's poisonous or venomous snake instantaneously, we know he's powerful. We just learned another attribute of priest. They have to be chosen by goddess. And by being chosen by goddess, we also, or priest, in this case Zain, also increased resistance and resilience against curses. Frieren calls that blessing of the goddess. So that's 100% a stepping stone and foreshadowing of Zain potentially being the only one unimpacted by this unknown curse in this episode. And because even Frieren said it, priests are different and has to be chosen. And what is the roles of this adventure party? Frieren is a very powerful mage, but mage nonetheless. Fern, another mage, and Stark, a warrior. So only person I'm guessing based on that setup is Zain. I think Zain is the only person that probably won't be impacted by the curse. And I wonder with this setup down the road, potentially even the fight, I wonder if everyone else will fall ill to or the effect of curse. And I wonder if everyone else will fall asleep and become unconscious into their slumber, just like the villagers. Whereas here's amazing, I think, setup. If I'm right, let's go. I wonder if Zain will be the only one who survives that curse and has to really step up and rescue the party, because no one else carries the blessing of the goddess, because Zain is the only priest. So we shall see.
呪いはフリーレンでもうまく防げないのか。
魔法使いでは呪いは感知。
Dude, what I say? Called
なん
it.
となく攻撃されている感じがするから、この村がまだ呪いの範囲内ってこと。
現在進行形で呪われてるってこと？怖い。
Oh, they're still
かな
under
り
the
特殊な
effect?
呪いだということが分かった。儀式が必要だ。道具もいる。発信源を叩いた方が早い。発信源は魔物だ。位置も割り出した。
Damn. Zain is OP.
フリーレン様、
Oh,
シュタルク様が
bro, what did I say? Oh my gosh.
寝ているね。一時的にでも目覚めさせられ
Effect
ない。
of curses happening in full throttle.
5秒間目覚めさせるのが限界だ。
5 seconds.
ないのと同じですね。
とにかく急いだ方が良さそうだな。
How does Zain detect the location of the source of the curse, aka this unknown monster? Because he said that the rituals might take too long, so it might be easier to defeat the source. Makes sense, right? Logically, if you defeat the source of the curse, it dissipates. Makes sense. But how did he detect that? Like by doing his assessment earlier, by trying to detect or like differentiate what type of curse is it when Frieren was, I guess, rushing Zine earlier, was he able to see like the invisible traces of the curse and saw it in this invisible dimension that the viewers can't see? Or through his assessments, he's able to just somehow magically see where the source of the curse is coming from? Like almost like an invisible radar system? Like how did he detect the source? Interesting. Stark is always being carried midair. Oh no. Frieren is next.
フェルンが起きない。
Oh, the curse is powerful too. Damn. Frieren is next. At this pace, Frieren is 100% next.
二人はここに隠しておこ
They don't have blessing of the goddess.
もう少しだ。
う。じゃあザイン、魔物が出たら起こしてね。
She promises as she's falling asleep.
ほじゃ5秒しか。
Yo, Zine is the only awake immune person, as I called it earlier.
まあいい。俺にも戦闘用の魔法はある。
Oh, I didn't know priests can have combat magic. They're like the paladin of World of Warcraft. Uh-oh. Here comes a fight scene.
あと魔力を吸い取られ殺す。
It's big ass flower. Oh,
混沌化は足を生み出す。
appreciate the inner monologue.
光景が変わる。
Oh. It's like a mirror. It deflects all attacks.
何が起こった？俺の魔
Or reflect. Oh, dude. The subtlety is amazing. Oh, crucial flashback.
わ
Let's see.
からないんですよ。私は冒険者には必要ないと思っています。
Hmm.
特に私の仲間であったフリーレンはその点が拙かっ
Lack of mutual understanding.
たから私は彼女の言葉を信じることにしました。彼女は魔王を必ず倒すと言いました。
And she did.
私はその言葉を信じたんですよ。
Quick interruptions with this scene because I just had a few flashes of insights and I'm about to go ham in predictions. I could be completely wrong, but I think this might be the best prediction I've made, so we shall see. One thing I've been thinking in the back of my mind throughout is 5 seconds. At the beginning of this scene, Zine said I can only wake Stark up for 5 seconds, which is a short time, so he didn't. And then when Fern fell asleep, of course he also didn't, because what's 5 seconds gonna do? And then when Frieren is starting to also fall asleep, falling ill to this unknown curse, what did we hear? Zine repeated the rule of 5 seconds. I can only keep you awake temporarily for 5 seconds. What is that gonna do? But another intricate and subtle details. What did Frieren say to Zine? Frieren said, hey, don't try to fight the monster by yourself. Wake me up and I promise, here's a keyword, I promise I'll defeat it. And as soon as the starting or action scene started, we saw Zine flashing backwards into a conversation he used to have with Heiter. And Heiter said this thing very interesting and paradoxical statement. He said that I don't believe that mutual understanding is necessary for a great teamwork and to understand each other. On the surface, that makes no sense. It's paradox. Mutual understanding literally means mutual. I understand you, you understand me. And what does mutual understanding require? What is a prerequisite? Communication, which is something that Frieren was awful at until recently, which is the entire arc of this series. But then Heiter, I think, says something very impactful, and I think is a seed, the foundation of this entire episode, is, but nevertheless, Haitra said, I chose to believe Frieren. I chose, here's a key. He chose, by choice, he chose to believe Frieren's words, even without communication nor mutual understanding. Why? The proof of evidence was there. Frieren promised to defeat the Demon King, and she did. And now we're about to flash, we came back to the present tense. And I think his internal struggle is also interesting. What am I gonna do with 5 seconds? He hasn't had time to communicate, so he's not on the same page with Frieren. But here we are. I think the flashback was reminding Zain to take a leap of faith, to believe in Frieren and her promise, even if there's no mutual understanding and no communication. And I know that Zain used to worship and respect Haitra deeply. Man, I'm talking fast because I'm getting really hyped about the prediction and what's to come in the fight scene, so bear with me. So I think that this is another punchline of Zain, this priest. What is his job? A job entirely predicated on faith and belief in goddess. In our world, God, because I'm also a Christian. So I think he is forced to take a leap of faith, which is what his occupation demands. And I think he has to struggle and have a dilemma of taking or choosing faith or choosing action, tangible action. And I think in this case, we will see, I guess we shall see with my prediction of Zain having to do both. Take a leap of faith, not with goddess, because the magic, the goddess magic, the spears is not working, because the flower and the monster is deflecting and reflecting all the magic spells. So a wrong spell will be able to harm other people in harm's way. So he is forced to take a leap of faith, not in goddess, but in Frieren. And also taking an action step, not just by faith and believing, but making a decisive action to probably choose to wake up Frieren in a decisive moment by hoping that Frieren will deliver her promise by defeating the monster. Wow. Apologize for pausing, but I really wanted to get my predictions out. So let's get to it. Trust her words. Let's go. Oh, I'm getting hyped. Here we go. She promises. Take a leap of faith. 5 seconds. She curved it. Oh, goosebumps. What the f***? Dude, full body goosebumps.
わかった。
Hold up. Can we just take a moment of silence to appreciate my predictions? But most importantly, Frieren's freaking, I almost cussed.
Watch your profanity.
Freaking amazing, astute capacity as a stellar, one of the best mages in the series so far. I know viewers said that she's not even the top 3, top 5 down the road, right? But I'm not there yet. So far, she is the most powerful mage we've seen. As soon as Frieren was woken up with that awakening spell by Zain, who inevitably had to take a leap of faith. And his leap of faith, again, was not to Goddess, it was to Frieren. And unlike Goddess in this case, who failed Zain, Frieren delivered. All Zain said was, you have to aim at the core, and he didn't even finish his sentence. Frieren already cast a spell, not through her traditional sheer output of magic, with her immense capacity of a mage, but rather, she was pragmatic. She had this practical curvature, I don't know what she did, like a curvature of a spell to avoid, I guess, frontal attack at this flower monster, because the monster can deflect and reflect spells by using the mirror leaves, whatever it is. So he went through the curvature and hit the core in the center of the monster by defeating it in literally 3 seconds. So the actual climax of the fight was 3 seconds, but of course the build-up was amazing. And this is my analysis before we resume. I think the first half of the episode so far denotes the crucial importance of teamwork. It's this idea that it's actually a famous theory by Albert Bandura, his self-efficacy theory right here. The theory states that we have to be able to work through crisis by finding solutions to be self-efficacious. To live a fulfilling life, we have to be able to spearhead through our problems by looking for solutions, not always by ourselves. I know it sounds paradoxical, but it's not. Or I know it sounds contradictory, but it's paradoxical. It's simultaneously true, even if they sound conflicting. We have to be dependent on ourselves. Case in point, Zain. When he realized that he couldn't depend on his spear, whatever goddess magic, he had to think on his feet. What am I gonna do? Am I gonna trust Haiter and in turn trusting Frieren at her words? Or am I gonna gamble and keep doing it by myself, even though his attacks were not working? So he achieved a state of self-efficacy. He had to not rely on faith on goddess, but rather on himself by making a decisive decision to wake up Frieren, which was triumphant and amazing. At the same time, like I said, it's paradoxical. We have to rely on one another. We have to rely on teamwork. Zain, even though he's the only character in the party that had the blessing of the goddess and that was immune to this unknown curse, he couldn't fight this monster alone at the end of the day. He had to rely on Frieren, not just a powerful mage, but insane combat intelligence and strategic and pragmatic with the choice of her magic cast that defeated the monster. So it's the idea of this teamwork. We have to rely on one another. Doesn't matter how good we are at a certain thing, none of us are the master of everything. None of us are good at every single thing with no weakness. That's why humans are social animals. Sociality. We are supposed to seek help when we are struggling, and through that struggle, we deepen our relationship, deepen our teamwork, and through that struggle, we achieve internal growth, which is what that scene highlighted beautifully so. Amazing. Oh, getting hyped. Took a nice nap. And they're napping next to each other, like a couple.
このご恩は忘れません。おかげで最高の目覚めでした。
Wow. They could... Was it an older woman?
これ魔法反射するやつだ。
Wow. Post-game analysis definition right here.
今回生きて帰れたのはザインのおかげだよ。
Aww. Frieren's only way of physical gesture of praise and recognition. She learned that from Haiter, Aizen the warrior, Himmel the hero.
やっと半分ですか。本当に長い道のりですね。
Fern the accountant.
おい、そこのお前。
なんだ
Who these? What the?
容姿も悪くない。
What? What's going on? What? Kidnap?
なんなの
So before the second part of this episode, I wanted to highlight the comments made by some viewers in my last episode. And I never made this connection, and this is why I appreciate comments and engagement. Because guys, this series is so profoundly, unreasonably deep. So I can only glimpse into like a tip of an iceberg, and I can only gauge so many symbolic interpretations and analysis per my perspective, because it's my first time watching. And I'm not gonna watch spoilers to spoil the fun, right? That defeats the purpose of doing a reaction video. So that's why I really appreciate the comments seriously, especially with backstory details. So here's what I wanted to highlight from that viewer. That viewer highlighted that the new party is comprised of apprentices. So for example, Stark is apprentice to Aizen the warrior, the unrivaled warrior from the hero's party. Now Zain is almost semi-proxy apprentice to Heiter the bishop, the unrivaled priest, the most prolific priest of the land from the last episode. Frieren is of course apprentice to Frieren. And who is Frieren apprentice to? Some people said that she has no apprentice because the whole point of the series is beyond Journey's End. Because she is an elf, an immortal being that outlasted all the other characters. But this viewer highlighted that, which I really appreciate. Frieren is apprentice to Himo the hero of life. She is Himo the hero, she is his apprentice of life. Because a lot of her emotional growth, a lot of her flashbacks, a lot of her personal, psychological, and emotional development can be attributed to Himo the hero, and of course, other characters from the hero's party as well. But I do agree with that. So I do believe that Frieren is also Himo the hero's apprentice of life and emotions, the human conditions. And with that, it does complete this another beautiful archetype of the party of the apprentice emerging and growing up and hopefully eventually surpass the original, the mentors or the hero's party that comprised of the mentors and the masters. Amazing detail. I really wanted to include that in the video.
名は何という？
So let's see where the second part of
こう
the
いうのは
episode
困り
goes.
ます
私を知っている
Lord
の？
Orden?
ここは北側諸国の三大騎士あなたの祖父も強引な人だった
何をわけのわからないことを
High-handed?
言っている。シュタルクと話している。
Damn.
私のパーティーの前衛です
シュタルク、お前と話すにはママの許可が必要。
Yo, he's rude AF, dude.
金なら出す。
バカバカしい行くよシュタルク
Oh,
Frieren
let's
様
go. Oh, they're broke.
何そのどうか
手持ちのロギンだってさ。
What are those coppers?
話くらいなら聞いてあげてもいいかな
フリーレン
So quick pause. I was wondering why this seemingly irrelevant detail of Fern making the comments that Miss Frieren, we are out of funds. This is awkward to say. And of course, as I mentioned, Fern has been the accountant of the party. And it's so funny because Frieren didn't even recognize what those coppers meant. What are those coins? Does Frieren have no conception or idea of what funds or money looks like? Because she's not in charge of money or fund management at all? Probably likely it because she is so carefree. And who cares? She's one of the most powerful beings in the show thus far. But that was a setup of Fern saying that they're broke for this scene. Because if they had sufficient funds, Frieren would have just forced the party to leave, and there wouldn't be any continuing conversation, and that wouldn't be part 2 of this episode. But last thing I'll highlight before we continue is, again, like I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, we saw Frieren showing and displaying her surrogate mother, the parent, the mentor dynamic in that carousel scene, right? Fern was sleeping on Frieren's shoulder and so on, as I mentioned. Right here, we see that Frieren is stepping up and being protective, which is what a guardian does, being protective of Stark, his free will, and his interest by speaking up against this lord, noble. And I guess the noble doesn't know who Frieren is. But again, no one can stop and force Frieren to do what she does not want to do. Obviously, the reasons are clear. She's OPAF. But of course, at the end of the day, just like what I concluded the first part of this episode, Frieren was being very pragmatic, practical with her magic cast spell. And here, we see another parallel. She's being very practical because they need the funds. And with Abraham Maslow's hierarchy, survival is the most foundational pillar. Survival is a must. And Frieren recognized that. That's why she's like, I guess I can hear you out. Great setup throughout this episode so far.
シュタルク、出身はどこだ？
So what's the request? We shall
中
see.
央諸国クレ地方の戦士の村だ
私の家系も。
That's why they have red hair. Oh,
長男のビル。
red hair.
私の後継ぎにしてこの町の英雄だ。
シュタルク様に似て
They
います
do
ね
look alike.
ウリ二つだ。身なりを整えれば家のものでもない限り見分けはつかん。
Quick pause, just to share my prediction. I think the request of this kidnapping, air quote, of course, he's paying them, but air quote kidnapping request is, I think they're going to use Stark as a stand-in. I think Stark is going to play or role play or pretend to be the heir of this noble family and to be his son for whatever events there is. And that's why as soon as the noble saw Stark, I guess the servant was like touching him and he was saying that, oh, you have a great build. You have a great physique. You look nice too. And now in this punchline, we see with this massive portrait on the wall that they nearly look identical as what Fern is narrating in the background. So I think that's what the request is. For whatever unknown reasons thus far, they're going to use Stark as a stand-in as his son. Interesting.
依頼と何か関係があるんですか？
一月前に魔族との大きな戦い
Oh,
が
is he dead or missing?
その時にビルトが戦死
Damn. 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 RIP. Definitely stand in on behalf of his son.
消耗した兵力を立て直すまで士気を下げるわけにはいかん。
Oh, for morale boosting.
つまる社交会が開かれる。そこでビルトの健在を示す。
Yep, to boost
報酬
morals.
は
Whoa. Damn.
魔導書もつけて。
書庫から一冊好きなものを持っていけ。
Wow.
である。そいつは
Wow.
名誉の負傷だ。
Perfect setup, dude. The writers are freaking nuts in this show. He has no free will. Stark has no say. Oh, dude, Stark's gonna clean up real nice. Learning about horse riding. Zayn is drinking, of course. Honoring Hyter's legacy, being a drunk. Learning all the social etiquettes of a nobleman.
作法の練習はどうですか？
地獄だぜ。
Whoa, what's going on?
どうかな。
Quick pause. I just noticed another parallel. When's the last time we saw someone kneeling down and holding the hands of a certain female and putting on a ring of a lotus, which means eternal love? Himo the hero and Frieren. And I've been speculating that there is indeed romantic interest between Fern and Stark because they had a lover's quarrel argument in the previous episode as well. But that is an identical scene, exactly, like literally identical and parallel to the scene between Himo the hero and Frieren. Of course, Stark was practicing his etiquettes of kneeling down. That's probably, I'm guessing, what you have to do as the noble man to invite a lady to a dance floor, I'm guessing. And of course, Fern's like, it doesn't suit you. And Stark's like, oh, that's not very nice. And he walked out. Classic Fern clapback and roast. But what do we see? The camera zoomed in on Fern's hands. The hands that was held by Stark. So I'm pretty sure something is going on romantically. And I wonder in this second half of the episode, we're going to see some more actions, not like killing actions, but romantic actions between Stark and Fern. So we shall see. Wow. So many parallels in this show. It's overwhelming, honestly.
ゴールデン今日。
父上と呼べといつも言っているだろう。
Gotta practice.
どこに人の目があるかわからん。
息子が死んでからまだ2ヶ月も経っていないんだろ。
私は息子の遺言に従っているだけだ。そのための影武者もいた。
Whoa.
お前ほど似てはいなかったがな。確かにあまり気分のいいものではないな。だがこれも息子の意志だ。付き合ってもらうぞ。
He's honoring the dying request of his son, it sounds like.
不器用すぎるぜあんた。
Another pause. So Stark said that, Lord Orr, you're very awkward. Isn't it too cold? It's only been merely, using Frieren's favorite word, merely 2 months. I can highlight a few things about Lord Orr or the noble's presentation emotionally. I think he's in deep grief. but he's probably suppressing it versus expressing or going through healthy developments of grief counseling and grief processing. That's why he seems facially stiff, unemotional, very similar to Frieren's initial presentation in the beginning of the series. Second thing, I think part of what the nobleman, Lord Orr, is doing is he is, yes, like he said, honoring the dying request of his son who died in a battle by being responsible and choosing to find a double, or in this case Stark, to maintain the high morals for the fortress they've built, which is the intention behind his request. And I want to quickly talk about morale building definition right here. There's a lot of documented medical cases and so-called medical miracles where a lot of dying patients dealing with terminal illnesses are diagnosed with poor prognosis of dying within 3 months. You have no more than a month left. You have no more than 6 months left. But there are countless, seriously, feel free to look it up, countless documented medical cases where so-called poor prognosis and terminal ill patients with inevitable imminent death end up defying the so-called medical diagnosis by physicians for additional 1 year, additional months. And in some cases, they even live for a few more years, way past the prognosis provided by the medical doctors. And the reason for that is two things based on the literature and research. One, it's belief and desire to cling on because of you had unfulfilled dreams, reasons to be alive, like having to take care of your children, your grandchildren, your family, your dog, your cats, whatever their reasons. Your will and your willpower to live is so powerful that it can even defy these medical diagnoses provided by medical doctors. And the second thing is what I wanted to highlight with this morale building that I highlighted earlier. It's about morals. The higher the morale you have, whether in any organizations like a corporate, company, school, teamwork, in this case, the fortress, where all this actions and storyline is happening, morals dictates output and the outcome for a lot of things. If you have a high morale, even if you have a smaller group of army or a smaller company, can have extreme and honestly amazing disproportionate productivity. Team culture creates morals in a lot of cases, like retention rates. A lot of teams and organizations with poor morals, like poor and low team morals, have very high retention, like turnover rates, and low retention rates. A lot of employees quit. So morals are very important. And like the medical miracles examples I just highlighted, if you have a really high morale, you can outlive your diagnosis, and you can even defy a lot of air quote certain outcomes. And I think that's the reason why the Lord Orr is fulfilling not just the dying wish of his son, but really trying to ensure high morale. And that's why that is a foundation of the second part of the episode. Otherwise, it's pretty pointless. Why would they include this in this episode? And everything serves a purpose. So I think the writers are really trying to highlight the importance of team morale, which is what? Continuation of the first half of the episode, which is the importance of teamwork and relying on each other. Amazing. Great build up.
ムート、もっと背筋を伸ばせ。
はい、父上。
Younger son?
次男のムートだ。
Oh man, that's harsh.
それに比べてシュタルク。
Oh, reminiscent of his own father, poor Stark. Flashback.
剣技の腕は姿勢に出るからな。
What does Orden mean in German? Flashback. He's having PTSD flashback about his own father because it was traumatic for Stark.
ここはお前の故郷の村じゃない。
He knows. He knows. Lord Orr knew.
兄ほどの才はないな。
Oh, he's a better father than Stark's father.
私よりも強い。
Wow, he recognized his efforts.
それムートに言ってやった方がいいぜ。
いつも言ってい
Emotional
る
expression. Oh, nice.
だから調子に乗ってなかなか上達せん。
そりゃ大問題だ。
Another quick pause. So that dialogue solidifies what I said about Lord Orr not being a cold person and awkward, but rather he's in deep grief and probably a lot of suppression going on, which is what my analysis said. Because we just saw firsthand that Lord Orr is actually a really good father. When he saw that Stark was freezing up, practicing the Lord Orr family technique, he put his hand on Stark and said, "Hey, don't be tense, don't worry, this isn't your village." He was very warm, and he has this insider knowledge about the village that Stark came from, because that is the origin of this three noble family, the Lord Orr's family origins, I guess. So he's probably familiar with the culture of that village. Very harsh, very cutthroat, zero sum, and very inhumane in a lot of cases, like Stark's father was. But we see that he's a much better father. And in fact, he does express his affection, he does express his praise for his second son, Mutt, freely. Unlike Stark's father was. Amazing. Great guy. He's just in deep grief.
社交界だぞ。年頃の男子が一人と思うのか。それともママが連れて行ってくれるのか。
頑張ってね。
What is it, like a dance event? Is Stark, under the false pretense of Lord Orr's son, the fake prince, going to go on a dance with Fern? Yo, this is about to be some romantic actions like I predicted. That's right, because a nobleman can't go to a dance by himself. Wow. Yo, they're going to dance together. I'm shook. Dude, if they don't end up dating by the end of the series, man, I'm going to be sad and disappointed. I really hope they do. A month of practice. Holy crap. Dang, Stark, you look good. That looks like my old hairstyle. Should I bring it back? Ooh, let's go. Might as well. Let's go. Oh, Fern's not smiling. Wow. Aw, Fern's being shy. Do you see that? She's averting her gaze, her eyes at Stark. She's being shy right now. Ah, the innocence of adolescent love. Yo, Stark's so good. Wow. Fern is awestruck. Fern is amazed. I'm amazed. Wow, the spin. Oh, the classic spin. Wow. They're both smiling. Sorry for muting the music for copyright, of course. Oh, the tilt. Frieren's eating. Nope. Ah, I knew it. So, I just wanted to highlight the significance of that scene. As we all know so far, I can probably spend 10 minutes analyzing any frame, but I'll keep this brief. As I predicted earlier, I knew that something romantic action related might happen based on the setup, and indeed, here we are. I want to focus on the facial expressions because our facial expressions is the front line of our emotional expression. So that they are intricately related. The concept of emotional congruence that I highlighted previously. What did we notice the subtle shift in Fern's facial expressions? She went from initially being shy, because they're both adolescents or young adults. They're both young, very youthful. She was shy. She couldn't even look at Stark in the face as we're dancing. Definitely shyness. Second, she shifted from shyness to being awestruck, being amazed at Stark's dancing techniques, which indicate his hard work, because Stark is an extremely hard worker. We all know that. He is the personification and representations of courage and action. And just do it! Shell above. And third, she went from shyness to being awestruck to smiling and finally enjoying the dance with Stark. And I think that is going to be a central theme down the line, hopefully, to see the full romantic outburst between Stark and Fern. Because remember what I said earlier, this is a party of apprentices. The emerging heroes party after the heroes party that's past, or that's of the past. Remember, what is the one thing all of us yearn for and longing for? What is the one thing that never happened? The love between Frieren and Himo the hero. I think as this party of apprentices, as the comments I shared earlier, shout out to the commenter who shared that, I think we're going to see the continuation. And Stark and Fern living out the unfulfilled romance of Frieren and Himo the hero. So we shall see. So good.
前線に立っていたのは私だ。ビルとも死なずに済んだのかも。
Oh, grief, sadness, sorrow. He is a great
社
father.
交会が終わったようだな。依頼は終了だ。ガーベル、フリーレンに報酬を渡してきてくれ。
10 gold coins.
シュタルク、お前の戦士としての力量は素晴らしい
Whoa,
もの。
he could sense it.
お前さえ良ければ。
俺はあんたの息子の代わりじゃないぜ。
そうだな。
Stark
私もお
knew.
前の父親の代わりではない。
Wow.
だ
Dude,
が帰
what
る
the
場所なんて
heck?
ないのだろう。クレ地方の戦士の村は魔族に滅ぼされた。それくらいは知っている。息子とは喧嘩別れだった。些細なことでの言い争いだ。
Oh,
お前の顔なんて二
That's
度
the
と見た
worst.
くないと。そう言って
that's the worst. Oh, poor
心に
dad.
もない言葉だった。
Oh,
お前を見つけた時は奇跡だと思ったんだ。
oh, that's rough.
ならなおさらここには残れねえな。俺も心にもない言葉を言っちまったんだ。育ての親にさ。
Dude, another freaking parallel, dude. What the heck?
血をたっぷりと持って帰らねえとダメなんだ。
そうか。
Holy, so many parallels. Lord Ord asked Stark to stay in hope of replacing his son because of Lord Ord's regret, guilt, and also survivor's guilt for sure. Because of the comment he said that if it weren't for my injury, my son wouldn't have died because I also would have been at the frontier of the battle. That's survivor's guilt. But also the guilt from parting in a resentful, angry way. And he said that I hope to never see you again. And now he never will. Which is the parallel between the fallout or the conflict with Stark and Aizen the Warrior. And we know that's the ethos of Stark's mission. His objective of this adventure. So he can bring back all the stories from his journey to the end with Frieren, now Zine and Fern. That's why he's like, I cannot stay because I need to amend and reconcile with my master, which is the parallel that Lord Ord will never get to do with his son. The parallels are freaking nuts. And the last thing I will say is this might be an overstretch, but I really think that there's countless parallels. So here's my effort. Lord Ord said that I thought it was a miracle when I saw you. What's the other miracle we witnessed in the first half of this episode? The miracle of Zine and Frieren and the teamwork that revived the villagers from their slumber, from their sleep, the sleep from the curse. Because this party, adventurous party, represents a miracle for the villagers. Otherwise, they would have fallen into eternal slumber to death. And now in the second half of this episode, we see the word and the concept of miracle once more. And remember guys, that's what miracle is. Doing seemingly impossible feats, doing seemingly impossible, statistically low odds event. That's the definition of miracle. But what do we witness here? We don't always have to wait for a god or goddess to bestow upon us with miracles, but rather through teamwork, by relying on each other, because we cannot walk this path of life alone, we can achieve these seemingly unlikely events that we can call miracle. In the case of Lord Ord finding Stark, or in the case of the party reviving and rescuing the villagers. Amazing. Miracle requires actions. She loves this. She's thriving right now.
正気が全くありませんよ。
Aw, he's seeing father son
少なくと
action.
も後継ぎには困らなそうだ。
Why did Fern just go stand next to Stark? What's happening? More romantic spark?
忘れられた英雄か。
Whoa, what is this foreshadowing of next episode? Forgotten heroes? What the heck?
私の長寿友達。
Long-lived friends. Wow, so that was an amazing scene and episode to close out. But my question is, what was the symbolic gesture and meaning behind Fern going up to Stark next to the window? Because it's definitely symbolic, because the episode ended with Frieren looking up from the books, looking at them, at Stark and Fern, and smiling. So is this what I've been predicting, that the romance between Stark and Fern will continue to develop? I hope so, because love is love, and nothing is more beautiful than love. So with that being said, amazing episode, so many callbacks, so many parallels, and so many subtle yet masterful writing as always. So if you found my analysis helpful, I know I say this every time, but please smash that thumbs up. It really helps us out with all the hard work we're putting into it. And please check your subscribe button. Is it subscribed? Because our latest analytics are showing that 65% of you guys are not subscribed yet, which means you'll most likely miss out on my next video. And we are going to start reacting to Death Note and Vinland Saga after we finish Violet Evergarden and Frieren. So please subscribe to make sure you never miss out, and share this episode with one friend. Share the joy, share the laughter. Show more people how savage Fern can be. And as always, till next time, peace.